The sister of my wife claimed that she was pregnant by me and spread rumors that I was a but when I gathered evidence, she ended up in jail and became pregnant not because of me. I don't even know how to start this, because my life has turned into a complete disaster in the span of a few months. To be honest, I've always been pretty good at keeping things under control. Work, relationships, the usual. But this is something else. So, here's the story. Bear with me because it's a long one. My name is Ethan, and I got married to the love of my life, Olivia, just about a year ago. I know everyone says their partner is amazing, but honestly, Olivia is something special. She's the kind of person who lights up a room the moment she walks in. She's beautiful, like, I can't believe she's with me beautiful. But it's not just her looks. She's smart, funny, caring, and somehow, she always knows what to say when I'm stressed or overwhelmed. She just has that kind of calming energy. We met 3 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party. I was never the kind of guy to believe in love at first sight, but that night changed everything. We hit it off instantly, spent the whole evening talking, and by the time we left, I already knew I wanted to see her again. We started dating a week later, and it wasn't long before I realized I wanted to marry her. Everything felt so natural, and when I proposed after 2 years of dating, she said yes without hesitation. It felt like everything in my life was finally falling into place. But of course, life has a way of throwing you curveballs when you least expect it. Olivia has a younger sister named Mia. Mia is, well, let's just say she's complicated. She's got this wild, rebellious streak, always partying, always looking for attention. Don't get me wrong, she's nice enough on the surface, but there's always been something off about her. She's pretty much the polar opposite of Olivia. Where Olivia is grounded, Mia is unpredictable, always getting into some sort of drama. Despite this, Olivia loves her sister deeply and is always defending her, no matter what kind of mess Mia finds herself in. Now, I don't want to come off as some overly paranoid husband, but from the very beginning, I could sense Mia didn't really like me. She was never outright rude, but she had this way of making me feel like an outsider whenever I was around. I chalked it up to sibling rivalry or maybe just her personality, but looking back, there were definitely red flags that I chose to ignore. After Olivia and I got married, Mia seemed to drift further away from us. She didn't visit as much, and when she did, she barely made eye contact with me. It was awkward, but I didn't think too much of it. I was focused on my marriage, my job, and starting the next chapter of my life with Olivia. But then, about 6 months after our wedding, things took a dark turn. One night, out of nowhere, Mia showed up at our house, clearly drunk. Olivia was already asleep, so I let her in and tried to make sure she was okay. She was slurring her words, stumbling around, and honestly, I was more annoyed than anything. It wasn't the first time Mia had come around in that state, but usually, she kept her distance from me. This time, though, she was being overly friendly, leaning in too close, laughing at nothing. I told her to sleep it off on the couch, but before I knew it, she was grabbing my arm and making these weird, inappropriate comments about how Olivia didn't appreciate me enough and how I deserved more. I was beyond uncomfortable, and I made it very clear that she needed to go to sleep and leave me alone. Eventually, she passed out, and I went to bed feeling a little shaken, but relieved that Olivia hadn't witnessed any of it. I didn't tell her about it the next day because I didn't want to cause any unnecessary drama between her and her sister. In hindsight, that was probably my first big mistake. For the next couple of months, Mia kept her distance again, and I thought that was the end of it. But then, out of nowhere, she texted me one night. The message simply said, "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. I had no idea what she wanted, but something about that text felt off. I ignored it, hoping it was just another one of her drunken outbursts, but she didn't stop. She started calling me, leaving voicemails that got more and more disturbing. In one of them, she accused me of ruining her life and said I was going to pay for what I did. At this point, I was freaking out. I had no idea what she was talking about, but I knew I couldn't handle it alone anymore. I decided to tell Olivia about the weird texts and voicemails. When I finally sat her down and explained what had been happening, she looked at me like I was crazy. She said Mia was just going through a rough time and that I shouldn't take it personally. She even suggested that I might have misunderstood Mia's drunken behavior that night she came over. I wanted to believe Olivia. I really did. But something in my gut told me there was more going on. And then, the bomb dropped. A few weeks after that conversation, Mia went full nuclear. She posted this long, dramatic rant on social media, claiming that she was pregnant, and not just pregnant, but pregnant with my child. According to her, we had been having some secret affair, and I had somehow coerced her into keeping quiet about it. She wrote this insane story about how I had taken advantage of her when she was vulnerable and drunk, and how I was a predator who had betrayed my own wife. I couldn't believe what I was reading. It was like some kind of nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. The worst part? People actually believed her. Friends, family members, even acquaintances we barely knew started reaching out, asking me for my side of the story. It was humiliating. My reputation was being destroyed, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. Olivia was devastated, of course. She didn't know what to believe. On one hand, she trusted me. She wanted to believe that I would never do something like this. But on the other hand, Mia was her sister, and the accusation had thrown her into a state of shock. She didn't know what to think. I tried everything to convince her that Mia was lying, that I would never cheat on her, let alone with her own sister. But the more I tried to explain, the more it felt like I was digging myself into a hole. Mia refused to do a paternity test. Every time someone brought it up, she'd get defensive and say that I was trying to manipulate the situation to make her look bad. She even started spreading rumors around town that I was a pervert, that I had always had this creepy obsession with her, and that this wasn't the first time I had made inappropriate advances. The lies just kept piling up, and soon enough, people began to distance themselves from me. I was losing everything. My marriage was hanging by a thread. My reputation was in tatters, and everywhere I went, I could feel people whispering behind my back. Olivia tried to stay strong, but I could tell she was starting to doubt me. The constant pressure, the endless rumors, it was all getting to her. One night, after yet another argument about the whole situation, Olivia told me she needed space. She packed a bag and went to stay with her parents for a while. That was the lowest point for me. I felt completely alone. The one person who was supposed to have my back wasn't even sure if I was telling the truth anymore. I couldn't believe how fast everything had fallen apart. Just a few months ago, I was happily married, looking forward to starting a family with the woman I loved. Now, I was a social pariah. My wife's sister was accusing me of getting her pregnant, and I was losing everything I had worked so hard to build. But here's the thing. I know Mia is lying. I don't know why she's doing it, but I have no doubt in my mind that none of this is true. I never touched her, and there's no way that baby is mine. The problem is, how do I prove it? How do I convince everyone, especially Olivia, that Mia is lying when she refuses to do a paternity test and keeps spinning these crazy stories about me? I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do next, and every day, it feels like more people are turning against me. I just want my life back, but right now, that seems impossible. I'm not sure where to go from here. Should I keep fighting, or should I just cut my losses and walk away? How do I even begin to fix the damage Mia has caused? And most importantly, how do I get Olivia to believe me again? Any advice would be appreciated, because right now, I feel like I'm drowning. So, here I am again, back on Reddit because, honestly, my life just keeps getting worse. You'd think it couldn't get any more messed up than it already was, but apparently, I was wrong. The accusations, the rumors, all of it. It's spiraling out of control. What I'm about to tell you is even crazier than what I shared before. It's like a bad movie, but it's my real life. After Mia, my wife's sister, accused me of getting her pregnant, things went from bad to worse. Olivia, my wife, was already hanging by a thread emotionally. She didn't know who to trust, me, the man she married, or Mia, her sister, who had spun this insane story. My attempts to explain myself felt like screaming into a void. Olivia listened, but I could see it in her eyes. She was torn. I thought the logical next step would be a paternity test. I mean, that would clear everything up, right? Wrong. When I confronted Mia and demanded she take the test, she flat out refused. She told me that I needed to just trust her. Trust her? After everything she's done to me? After the lies, the accusations, and the complete destruction of my reputation, She had the nerve to ask for trust. It was maddening. And of course, she had some bullshit excuse. She said she didn't want to put her unborn baby through any unnecessary stress, that a paternity test would be too invasive. Total nonsense, but it didn't matter. She played the victim perfectly, and it was working on Olivia. The doubt in my wife's eyes grew deeper with every passing day. Mia's refusal to take the test should have been enough for anyone to see through her lies. But no. Instead of backing off, she doubled down. Things got even weirder after that. A few days after I asked for the paternity test, Mia sent Olivia and me a video. At first, I didn't understand what it was. It looked like some kind of home recording, and the angle was weird. But as I watched, my stomach dropped. It was a video of me, at least, it looked like me, having sex with Mia. The room in the video was dark, grainy, but the two people in it were clear enough. The man looked eerily like me, and the woman was unmistakably Mia. It was shocking. My hands shook as I paused and rewound the video, trying to wrap my head around what I was seeing. It wasn't real. I knew it wasn't real because it never happened. But the video looked so convincing. Olivia watched it in silence, her face pale and her hands gripping the arm of the couch so tightly that her knuckles turned white. I tried to explain, telling her again and again that it was fake, that someone must have doctored the footage, but she just stared at the screen, her expression unreadable. Mia's timing was impeccable, too. She sent the video to us just days after Olivia had come back from staying with her parents. We were still trying to patch things up when this bombshell dropped. It felt deliberate, calculated, like Mia was playing some sick game and knew exactly what she was doing. I didn't know how she pulled it off. Maybe it was some deepfake technology or something like that, but the resemblance between me and the guy in the video was terrifying. Olivia didn't say anything for hours after we watched it. She locked herself in the bedroom, and when she finally came out, she told me she needed more time to think. More time. Every day that passed with Olivia thinking was another day I felt her slipping further away from me. At that point, I knew I couldn't just sit around and hope things would get better. I needed proof, something solid to show Olivia that Mia was lying through her teeth. I couldn't do this on my own anymore, so I decided to hire a private investigator. It wasn't an easy decision. Those guys aren't cheap, and hiring one felt like admitting how far out of control my life had gotten. But I didn't have a choice. I needed to know the truth, even if it led me somewhere I didn't want to go. Enter Jack Reynolds. He came highly recommended by a colleague of mine, a no-nonsense guy who had a reputation for getting results. Jack was in his late 40s, with a gruff demeanor and a look in his eyes that said he'd seen it all. He didn't sugarcoat anything when I met with him. He listened to my story without interrupting, jotting down notes in a worn-out notebook. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and said, "You've got yourself a real mess here, Ethan. But if there's one thing I know, it's that the truth has a way of coming out." I liked Jack's confidence. It gave me a little bit of hope, which I desperately needed at that point. Jack got to work right away. He started digging into Mia's background, looking for anything that might help expose her lies. I didn't know what he'd find, but part of me hoped there was something in Mia's past that would make everything click into place. Maybe she'd pulled stunts like this before. Maybe there were other people she had tried to manipulate. I didn't care what it was. I just needed something. While Jack was doing his thing, I tried to maintain some sense of normalcy, but it was impossible. Everywhere I went, I felt like people were watching me, judging me. My phone buzzed constantly with texts and calls from friends and family who didn't know what to believe anymore. I couldn't even go to the grocery store without feeling like I was being stared at. The worst part was the look on Olivia's face every time she glanced at me, like she didn't know who I was anymore. That hurt more than anything else. A few days later, Jack called me with his first update. "I found something," he said, his voice cautious. My heart pounded as I waited for him to explain. He told me that Mia had been hanging out with some sketchy people lately, people who had a history of criminal activity, including fraud. There was one guy in particular, a lowlife named Nick, who Jack believed was involved in creating the fake video. Apparently, Nick had a reputation for being good with computers and had been linked to some scams in the past. It wasn't a smoking gun, but it was something. I had a name, a lead, and that gave me hope. Jack said he'd keep digging, but I could tell from the tone of his voice that things weren't going to be as simple as I'd hoped. Still, I couldn't sit back and wait for Jack to solve everything. I needed to confront Mia again. This time, I wasn't going to play nice. I went to her apartment, determined to get answers. When she opened the door, she looked surprised to see me, but there was something in her eyes, something cold and calculating that sent a chill down my spine. I demanded she come clean, that she tell Olivia the truth before things got even worse. Mia just smiled. That smile still haunts me. She leaned against the doorframe and said, "Why can't you just trust me? If you hadn't done anything wrong, then you wouldn't be so scared, would you?" I felt sick. She was enjoying this, relishing in the chaos she had caused. I tried to keep my cool, but inside, I was fuming. I pressed her again, telling her that I knew about Nick, that I had hired someone to dig into her past. Her expression didn't change. Instead, she shrugged and said, "You can't prove anything. Olivia will never believe you over her own sister." Then she slammed the door in my face. That was the moment I realized just how far Mia was willing to go. She wasn't going to back down, and she was counting on the fact that Olivia's loyalty to her would outweigh anything I could say or do. It was terrifying, knowing that someone could manipulate people so easily and so effectively. It felt like I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't escape from. But Jack wasn't done. A few days later, he called me again with a new development. Apparently, Mia had made several large deposits into her bank account recently, deposits that didn't line up with her usual income. Jack was able to trace the money back to a shady freelance gig that involved creating deepfake videos for clients who wanted to ruin people's reputations. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together. Mia had paid someone to create the fake video of us together. It was all part of her plan to destroy me. Armed with this information, I knew I had to act fast. I needed to show Olivia the truth before Mia could spin more lies. I took the evidence Jack had gathered and sat Olivia down one more time. I laid everything out for her: the deepfake video, the connection to Nick, the money trail. I showed her the proof, piece by piece, hoping that it would be enough to convince her that Mia had orchestrated the entire thing. Olivia was quiet as she looked over the evidence. She didn't cry, didn't get angry. She just sat there, reading through the documents, staring at the screenshots, trying to process everything. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Why would she do this?" she asked, more to herself than to me. I didn't have an answer. I still don't. All I know is that Mia wanted to hurt me, to ruin my life, and she was willing to destroy her own sister in the process. I thought Olivia would be relieved to finally know the truth, but instead, she seemed broken. Her own sister had betrayed her in the worst way possible, and now, she didn't know how to move forward. As for me, I feel a strange mix of emotions: relief, anger, sadness. I'm glad the truth is finally out, but I know this isn't the end. Mia isn't going to disappear quietly. She's still out there, and I have no idea what she's going to do next. All I know is that I'm going to keep fighting. I can't let her win. If you've been following my story, you already know how insane my life has been for the past few months. My wife's sister, Mia, accused me of getting her pregnant, spread rumors that I was a predator, and even went so far as to create a fake video of me having sex with her. It was a nightmare, but I managed to hire a private investigator, Jack Reynolds, who uncovered the truth. Mia had paid someone to create the video and had been manipulating my wife, Olivia, and everyone around us. It was a mess, but I thought that once I had the proof, everything would be over. I was wrong. Once I showed Olivia the evidence, I expected her to feel relieved, like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. Instead, she was devastated. Learning that her own sister had orchestrated this entire plot to ruin our lives wasn't something she could process easily. She became distant, withdrawn. We were in the same house, but it felt like we were worlds apart. I understood why. Betrayal like that doesn't just go away overnight, but it still hurt. I wanted to rebuild what Mia had broken between us, but it was going to take time. Mia, on the other hand, wasn't finished. Even after being exposed, she didn't back down. She kept spreading lies, twisting the truth, and making herself out to be the victim. She continued telling people that I had forced her into silence, that the deepfake video was just a smokescreen to cover up what really happened. It was infuriating. She was like a cancer that wouldn't stop growing, and I knew that if I didn't take serious legal action, she would continue to poison my life. That's when I decided to sue her. At first, I wasn't sure if I should go that route. I mean, suing my wife's sister? It felt extreme, but what other option did I have? Mia wasn't going to stop, and if I didn't do something drastic, she would continue to spread her lies and ruin my reputation. Plus, Olivia needed to see that there were consequences for what Mia had done. I couldn't let her manipulate her way out of this. So, with Jack's help, I found a lawyer, Sarah Connolly, a sharp, no-nonsense attorney with a reputation for taking on high-stakes cases and winning. I was nervous about taking this step, but I knew I didn't have a choice. Sarah was confident from the start. She told me that we had a strong case: defamation, emotional distress, even fraud because of the fake video. Mia's accusations had caused real harm to my life, my reputation, and my marriage, and Sarah was determined to make her pay for it. We filed the lawsuit within a week, and just like that, the battle moved from the court of public opinion to an actual courtroom. I won't lie, suing Mia was one of the most stressful things I've ever done. Even though I knew we had the evidence to win, there was always a part of me that feared she would somehow slip through the cracks. Mia was cunning, and I knew she would do everything she could to twist the truth. But Sarah was prepared for every dirty trick in the book. When Mia received the lawsuit, she went ballistic. I expected her to be shaken, maybe even scared, but she was furious. She hired a high-profile defense lawyer, a slick guy named Greg Dawson, who had a reputation for defending celebrities and wealthy clients caught in scandals. Mia was playing hardball, and she was betting everything on the idea that she could convince a jury that I was the monster she'd made me out to be. The pretrial period was hell. Olivia and I barely spoke. I think part of her wanted to believe that I was innocent, but another part still clung to the idea that maybe, just maybe, her sister wasn't lying. After all, how could someone go so far to ruin someone's life if it wasn't true? It didn't make sense to her, and honestly, I couldn't blame her for feeling conflicted. But the trial was looming, and I needed Olivia on my side. I needed her to testify for me, to tell the court that she knew Mia was lying. It was the only way we could win. In the weeks leading up to the trial, Jack kept digging into Mia's background, hoping to find more dirt on her. He found plenty. Mia had a history of manipulating people, ex-boyfriends, friends, even family members. She had been involved in several minor scams, including a time when she faked a car accident to get insurance money. But the real smoking gun came when Jack discovered that Mia had been secretly seeing a guy named Brian, the real father of her baby. Brian was a lowlife, a wannabe gangster who had been in and out of trouble with the law for years. Jack tracked him down and convinced him to talk. According to Brian, Mia had been seeing him for months, even during the time she was supposedly pregnant with my child. When Mia realized she could use the pregnancy to manipulate Olivia and me, she concocted the whole story, knowing that she could twist it to her advantage. It was classic Mia, always looking for a way to cause chaos and come out on top. Armed with this new information, we felt more confident going into the trial. But I was still nervous. Trials are unpredictable, and Mia was a master manipulator. I knew she would play the victim card as hard as she could, and I wasn't wrong. The courtroom was packed on the first day of the trial. Word had spread about the case, and everyone wanted to see the drama unfold. It felt surreal, sitting there in front of the judge, knowing that my entire life was being scrutinized by strangers. Mia was there, of course, dressed in all black, looking every bit the victim she had crafted herself to be. She even had tears in her eyes as she took the stand. Her testimony was exactly what I expected, an emotional roller coaster filled with lies and half-truths. She told the jury that I had manipulated her, that I had taken advantage of her when she was vulnerable, that I had forced her to keep quiet for months. It was sickening to listen to, but Sarah remained calm, letting Mia dig her own grave with every word. When it was Sarah's turn to cross-examine Mia, things got intense. Sarah didn't hold back. She grilled Mia on every inconsistency in her story, pointing out the gaps in her timeline and the fact that she had refused to take a paternity test. Mia squirmed, but she stuck to her lies. Then came the bombshell. Sarah called Brian to the stand. The courtroom was dead silent as he testified. He told the jury about his relationship with Mia, how she had manipulated him too, how she had concocted the entire story to ruin my life. Brian wasn't exactly a saint, but his testimony was damning. It was clear that Mia had lied about everything, and now, with Brian's confession, her story was falling apart. The final blow came when we showed the jury the bank records Jack had uncovered, the payments Mia had made to Nick, the guy who created the fake video. It was irrefutable proof that Mia had orchestrated the entire thing. There was no way she could talk her way out of it now. The trial lasted 2 weeks, but by the end of it, the outcome was clear. The jury deliberated for less than an hour before returning with a verdict in my favor. Mia had been found guilty of defamation, emotional distress, and fraud. The judge ordered her to pay significant damages, and while no amount of money could repair the damage she had done to my life, it felt like a victory. I had won, but the victory was bittersweet. Even though I had proven my innocence, the damage Mia had caused couldn't be undone. My reputation would always carry the stain of her lies, and Olivia and I still had a long road ahead of us. Winning the case didn't magically fix our marriage. Olivia was still dealing with the emotional fallout of her sister's betrayal, and we had a lot of healing to do. But at least now, the truth was out, and I could finally start to rebuild my life. After the trial, Mia disappeared. No one knew where she went, and honestly, I didn't care. She had done enough damage, and I didn't want her anywhere near me or Olivia ever again. I just wanted to move on, to put this nightmare behind me. It's been a few months since the trial ended, and things are slowly getting better. Olivia and I are in therapy, trying to work through everything. It's not easy, but we're both committed to making it work. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can breathe again. Looking back, I still can't believe how far Mia was willing to go to destroy my life. But in the end, her lies caught up with her. The truth came out, and I won. Now, all I can do is try to move forward and hope that this nightmare never repeats itself. So, that's where I'm at. If you've made it this far, thanks for reading. I never thought my life would turn into this kind of mess, but here we are. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that sometimes the people closest to you can be the ones who hurt you the most. And when that happens, all you can do is fight back and hope that the truth will eventually win. I wish I could say that after winning the court case, everything went back to normal. That somehow, after proving Mia was a liar and exposing her plot, life would finally settle down. But if anything, the trial was just the beginning of a new chapter in the nightmare she'd created for me and Olivia. Winning the lawsuit felt like a victory in the moment, but it didn't magically fix the scars left behind. And little did I know, Mia still had a few tricks up her sleeve. After the trial, Mia disappeared. No one knew where she went. Her social media accounts were shut down, she wasn't answering calls, and even her closest friends didn't know what had happened to her. Part of me was relieved. Mia had been a tornado in our lives, leaving destruction in her wake. Her absence felt like the calm after the storm, a chance for Olivia and me to pick up the pieces and rebuild what was left of our marriage. But the peace didn't last long. As soon as Mia vanished, rumors began to circulate. People started whispering that Mia was in hiding, claiming she had been unjustly targeted in court and that she had been forced to flee because of the injustice she'd faced. These weren't just random whispers from strangers. These were friends and family members who, despite everything, still believed Mia's version of events. It was like I was stuck in a never-ending nightmare where no matter how much evidence I had, people still wanted to believe her lies. It was infuriating, and it put a strain on my already fragile relationship with Olivia. Even after the trial, Olivia was still conflicted. She had testified on my behalf, but I could tell she wasn't fully convinced. Mia was her sister, and the bond they shared couldn't just be severed overnight, even after everything that had happened. Olivia spent hours trying to reconcile the person she thought Mia was with the person who had tried to destroy our lives. Some nights, I'd find her staring at old photos of the two of them, tears in her eyes. I couldn't blame her for being confused, but I also couldn't help feeling frustrated. I had fought so hard to clear my name, and yet it still felt like I was the one on trial in my own home. Things reached a breaking point when Olivia received an anonymous package in the mail one day. Inside was a letter, typed, no signature, accusing me of being the real villain. The letter claimed that Mia had been forced to go to extreme lengths to defend herself because I had been manipulating everyone from the start. It accused me of paying off witnesses, threatening Mia, and using the legal system to crush her. The letter didn't offer any proof, but it was filled with enough venom and false accusations to shake Olivia even more. To make matters worse, the letter suggested that there was a hidden stash of evidence that would prove Mia had been telling the truth all along. I could see the doubt creeping back into Olivia's mind, and that was what scared me the most. Even after everything, Mia's influence was still there, like a shadow hanging over our lives. But things took a darker turn when we realized Mia wasn't just hiding. She was plotting something bigger. Jack, my investigator, reached out to me one afternoon with disturbing news. He'd been keeping tabs on Mia's activities, even though she had gone underground, and he managed to trace some online activity back to her. She had been communicating with someone, a dangerous individual named Victor, a known con artist and blackmailer. From what Jack could gather, Mia was working with Victor to create a new, more elaborate scheme to come after me. Victor had a history of extortion and blackmail, targeting vulnerable people and ruining their lives for money. He wasn't just some low-level thug. He was highly sophisticated, and people in legal circles knew his name for all the wrong reasons. Jack suspected that Mia and Victor were working on something big, something that would make the fake video stunt look like child's play. I didn't know what they were planning, but I knew it wasn't good. At this point, I was exhausted, emotionally, mentally, and physically. My life had been turned upside down, and every time I thought I had made it through the worst, something else would pop up to drag me back in. I didn't want to live like this anymore. I didn't want Olivia to live like this either. I wanted to confront Mia, to put an end to whatever she and Victor were planning, but Jack advised against it. He said we needed to gather more evidence before making any moves, or else we'd be playing right into their hands. Then, one night, things escalated in a way I never could have anticipated. It was around midnight when I heard a knock at the door. Olivia was already asleep, and I figured it was just a delivery that had been left late. But when I opened the door, I was met by two police officers. They told me they had a warrant to search my home. Apparently, they had received an anonymous tip that I was involved in some kind of illegal activity. I was in shock. They wouldn't tell me exactly what they were looking for, but they tore through our house, going through every drawer, every closet, and every room. Olivia woke up in a panic, and we watched helplessly as our home was ransacked by the authorities. After hours of searching, they found nothing. There was no illegal activity, no hidden stash of whatever it was they were looking for. But the damage was done. Our home was turned upside down, and the officers left us with nothing but a vague explanation that they were acting on a credible tip. I didn't need to guess where that tip had come from. It was Mia. It had to be. She was escalating her attacks, and now she was using the legal system against me once again. This was the final straw. I couldn't live like this anymore. Mia had gone from lies and manipulation to involving dangerous criminals and now the police. I didn't know what her endgame was, but I knew it wasn't going to stop until she destroyed me completely. Jack and I sat down the next morning and discussed our next move. We needed to be proactive, not reactive. Jack started looking deeper into Victor's past, trying to find any connection between him and Mia that could be used to expose whatever plan they were hatching. In the meantime, I made the decision to file for a restraining order against Mia and Victor. I didn't care that she was Olivia's sister. Mia had crossed every line imaginable, and I needed to protect myself and my wife from whatever she had planned next. The restraining order wasn't easy to get. Mia was good at playing the victim, and her lawyer argued that she hadn't done anything to warrant such extreme measures. But with the help of Sarah and Jack's evidence, we were able to convince the judge that Mia and Victor posed a legitimate threat to my safety and well-being. The restraining order was granted, but I knew that wouldn't be enough to stop Mia. She had already proven that she didn't care about the law or consequences. A few weeks passed, and things seemed to calm down, but I knew it was just the calm before the storm. Then, one night, I got a call from Jack. He had found something big. Apparently, Mia had been funneling money through a series of shell companies connected to Victor. The money trail was complicated, but it all led back to one thing. Mia and Victor were planning to extort me for millions of dollars. They were going to create more fake evidence, use the fake police tip as leverage, and then blackmail me into paying them off to avoid further legal trouble. But here's where things got even crazier. Jack discovered that Mia had a backup plan. If the extortion didn't work, she was planning to flee the country with Victor. She had already bought plane tickets to a country with no extradition treaty, and she had started liquidating her assets to fund her escape. It was clear that Mia wasn't just playing games anymore. She was preparing to disappear for good. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to let her go, to let her escape and finally be rid of her once and for all. But the other part of me, the part that had been fighting this battle for so long, wanted justice. I didn't want Mia to get away with everything she had done. I wanted her to face the consequences of her actions, to be held accountable for the pain she had caused. In the end, I decided to take action. Jack and I worked with the authorities to expose Mia's plan before she could execute it. We provided the evidence of the extortion scheme, the money trail, and her escape plan to the police. They launched an investigation, and within days, Mia and Victor were arrested before they could board their flight. Mia's arrest was the final nail in the coffin. The authorities charged her with extortion, conspiracy, and a laundry list of other crimes related to the fake evidence and blackmail attempt. Victor, too, was facing serious charges, and it was clear that neither of them would be getting away this time. When the news broke, it felt surreal. Mia, the person who had spent months trying to destroy my life, was finally facing justice. Olivia was devastated, of course. Despite everything, Mia was still her sister, and seeing her arrested was like ripping open a wound that had barely started to heal. But for me, it was the closure I needed. Mia had taken so much from us, but now she would finally pay the price. It's been a few months since Mia's arrest, and life is slowly starting to feel normal again. Olivia and I are still in therapy, working through the trauma that Mia caused, but there's a sense of hope now that wasn't there before. We're healing together, and for the first time in a long time, it feels like we might actually make it through this. Looking back, I still can't believe how far Mia was willing to go to destroy my life. But in the end, her lies caught up with her, and now she's facing the consequences. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm hopeful that we can finally move forward and leave this nightmare behind us. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that the truth always comes out, no matter how hard someone tries to bury it. Thanks for reading. I hope my story serves as a reminder that no matter how dark things get, there's always a way to fight back and find the truth.